Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to this bonus episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I don't know if you can tell that I'm smiling, but I'm smiling because I'm really happy that I'm able to make this episode happen. Well, not just me, but I have two guests on today. If you're subscribed to the Etsy Conversations email newsletter, then, or on the Facebook page, you're already aware that I've been talking about having an interview with an Etsy insider, and this is it. And so I'm releasing this as a special bonus episode. I asked you to send in questions, and I want to thank everyone who participated by sending in questions that you had about Etsy, selling on Etsy, just different things regarding Etsy that that are on your mind or have plagued you, and you wanted an answer from someone who knows more than all the rest of us who are trying to sell and read as much as we can. And so my two guests today are, my first guest is Kim. Kim used to work for Etsy. I'm going to have her tell you exactly what she did for Etsy, and she is going to be responding to all the questions that you sent in. I'm very grateful that she has agreed to do this. And my second co-host is Angie. Angie has been on the podcast before. Both Kim and Angie have Etsy shops as well. Kim's Etsy shop is Tiny Hearts, and Angie's Etsy shop is Gathered and Sewn. And so we're going to be talking, well, primarily responding to your questions, but what I like is that both Kim and Angie have Etsy shops as well, so they understand what it feels like to be an Etsy shop owner and experience some of the frustrations that we all do. And Kim has worked on the inside, and so she has a unique insight into working with Etsy from the other end. And so I'm really happy that she's going to share some of that knowledge with us. So let's first hear from Kim. Kim, thank you so much for being my guest on the podcast. And can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here. Your podcast is really special. I'm really glad that you're doing this.
Oh, thank you.
My name is Kim, and I started my Etsy shop in 2008, and I remember meeting a girl at a job that I was working at the time. I was making costumes in New York City, and she said she had an Etsy shop, and she said that she made her rent with her Etsy sales, and I was like, I gotta find this website. And it was a different time back then. There weren't as many sellers, and those of us who have been on Etsy a long time know that there's been a lot of changes to the site itself. But I recently left Etsy and moved to small town Wisconsin, where I met Angie, and I found her through Etsy, through the Etsy local app on the site, and I came to her market, and now we're actually sitting next door to where we first met. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
So nostalgic.
It is. We're very happy and hyped up on a lot of coffee.
Yeah. What you don't know if you're listening to the podcast is Kim, Angie, and I have actually been talking for almost an hour before this, just because if they're at a coffee shop, I feel like I've been transported to the coffee shop with them. And so hopefully you'll enjoy this conversation. Kim, why did you leave Etsy?
Well, in 2013, I became pregnant with my son, and in 2014, I had him. No, is that right? No, I had him in 2013. Oh my God, I still have mom brain. Oh no,
I won't tell him.
I left Etsy in 2014. I had my son in 2013, okay. And part of leaving, I left New York mostly because we wanted to slow our lives down, and I really wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And if by leaving Brooklyn we were able to do that, which made me really, really happy and really grateful. When I got back from my maternity leave and was kind of looking around at everybody and the work I was doing, I didn't find it as rewarding as I did before I had my kid. When I was childless, I was just like in it and I loved it. But, at any job, there's things that bug you. And when I got back from maternity leave, the things that bugged me were magnified times a million, trillion, gazillion. And I just became really unhappy with the entire lifestyle of being a working mom in New York City. It's really, really difficult for some people. It was really difficult for me. And so we came to Wisconsin on vacation to visit my husband's family, my in-laws, and bought a house. and went back to New York, and I wrapped up my work projects, and I left, and haven't really looked back. I was really, really excited to have this new life and feel very, very grateful that it's working out so far. We've been here 6 months, and I just feel like I have a little more control over my life and my future and my family.
Well, it's a much slower paced lifestyle here too.
It's so slow. I love it. My afternoons are so long. I chase my we plant flowers. We have an herb garden. You know, it's just, we talk to the neighbors. We chase kitty cats and bunnies around. It's ridiculous. I love it.
We're getting into lightning bug season.
I know, right? And mosquitoes.
Yeah, that's
Nice. Kim, so when you left Etsy, you left on good terms.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good.
It was, you know, it just got to the point where, like, I just didn't fit, and I knew that, and I was self-aware enough that I didn't want to try to fit anymore. If you've ever worked at a company that, like, I was the 70th, like, right around the 75th employee. 5 of us were hired at the same time.
Wow.
So we were, like, right around 75 to 80, and that was 2010. So we were just kind of, I mean, we were kind of big for a startup, but it was still startup atmosphere. And you know, it changes. Things just change. There's books, and like when a company reaches 150 people, things really change. And I was rolling with the punches. I was like pretty excited about it, and really pumped to go to work and make a difference and help sellers. But now, like, I get to help sellers, and we're going to talk about this later in the podcast. Now I get to help sellers without having to worry about getting budgets approved, and without having to worry about, like, am I going to be considered for that next promotion? Now I can just kind of do what I love to do and do it on my own terms, and take what I learned at Etsy with me. And that's, like, honestly, working there was kind of like a graduate school, except I got paid. And I just learned so much. I met so many people, so many personalities, and it just developed me into a stronger person, and I think even a more thoughtful person.
Oh, nice. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Kim has some very exciting things going on, but we're going to save that till the very end, because I really want you to hear what she's working on right now. I think you're going to really like it, but we'll talk about that later. The other thing I was going to ask Kim was, oh no, you already, oh wait, did I ask?
We talked about so much before.
I know. We talked about so much. Okay. I'll remember. Oh, I remember now. Can you tell us what you sell in your Etsy shop? I see it, but I want you to say.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally. When I first started selling on Etsy, I sold handbags and scarves. And I think that's why I was originally attracted to Angie's shop, because her handbags are so beautiful, and I could just tell. No, they're crafted so well. And I bought one, and I know it now because I use it.
And you really actually bought it before you even introduced yourself to
I
me.
did. I know. I was being humble. I was like, I don't just want to go up to her and be like, "Hi, I used to work at Etsy." And
now give me a purse.
Right. Now give me a purse. But so then I kind of went on hiatus when I worked at Etsy, because it's really hard to have a full-time job and run an Etsy shop. Yeah. And it's really just hard to find time to be creative when you have a full-time job. So I took a hiatus, and then I dabbled in like embroidery, but now since I had my son, I've been inspired, and I'm starting to quilt. And I just listed a few quilts. Hopefully I'll have more by the time this airs. And then I also make little cutie hipster bandana bibs for baby boys and baby girls. So cute. And I'll be putting up, like, tinkering with some marketing ideas about selling sets of 3, and things like that. So yeah, That's what I do. And I also wanted to mention, though, like, it was really important to me. Part of leaving Etsy was really important to me to be part of the Etsy community again, and not be I don't know. It's not that black or white, but I just missed being a seller. I missed having the time to follow through with my creative ideas. And it was like overwhelming. I was like, I really, really want to make this quilt I see in my head, but I have zero time. And so being able to move here and meet sellers like Angie's, even Angie specifically, has totally rejuvenated my whole spirit of the Etsy community, because you see a lot of negative stuff from the community when you work at Etsy. And it's not that I wanted to ignore that or not hear it anymore. I just wanted to balance out like my creative time with my work time too. And it was hard for me to do that living in New York and working full time.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It makes perfect sense.
I love the Etsy community. I think it's a great, but when I worked there, I worked on the last job I did was I worked building a program for the Etsy teams. And it was just like so awesome. I got to talk to so many captains on the phone, and I still email. I'm like pen pals with a handful of them still. It's so much fun. And that's the part I love. And that's why I wanted to take
when you moved here,
yeah,
I was accepted into the fellowship program that you helped start, correct?
I didn't help start it. My former colleague who still works at Etsy, Shayna, actually started it and designed it, and then I took it over when she moved on. Like, she just started working on something different at Etsy. And then I took it over, and with my manager's help, her name's Abby, her and I kind of restructured it to be something that you actually got to participate in.
And then Kim got to come here and see it lived out in person.
Totally.
Like, it just worked out so perfect. And it was the week you moved here, wasn't it?
It was like 7 or 8 days after I landed.
Wow.
And here she gets to like go right back to work right away.
Yeah, it was really good.
Better way to work.
It was so much better.
Shopping.
Kim, is that your son who models all the baby bibs?
Yes.
Yes. I thought so.
He's
cute.
And he's getting to be so big now, so I feel like I have to have another one so I can keep modeling.
It sounds like a good logical plan.
Maybe next year.
Okay, and then Angie, some of you might remember Angie. I've had Angie on the podcast before, and she runs the Etsy shop, Gathered and Sewn. Angie, can you give us another intro to you?
I can. Yeah, my shop is Gathered and Sewn, and I mostly do handbags, but I also do some accessories too, mostly leather and linen. I'm actually kind of moving away from cotton altogether now and going with just leather or linen. So I've been selling on Etsy. I want to say that my shop will say I started in 2009. I can't remember when it says it started, but I didn't actually start selling on Etsy till probably about 2012. And what happened is I made a Bible cover for a friend who was going to give it as a Bible gift. Not a Bible gift. That doesn't make sense. A Christmas gift. And she asked me to make this. I said, sure. It seemed simple enough. So I made it. And then I thought, well, while I'm making this, I'm going to just put it up on my shop. And I did, and that thing sold and sold. So I made other colors, and those sold. And so I really think that that's kind of what established my shop, even though that's not really what my focus is now. It really, it got me the sales that gave me reviews, that gave me credibility, and so then therefore I was able to grow the part of my shop that I love, which is handbags. So that is my full-time job. This is all I do. And besides running my shop, I do plan some local events, which Kim and I are doing this one together. I'm so happy to have a partner to help me now.
It's been so much fun.
It is fun.
It's been so much fun because the fellowship program I worked on, I was constantly like thinking of ideas and writing education about holding selling events. And then I could come out and like use it in real life. And I'm on an Etsy team called Made in Wisconsin. And I want to give them a shout out because they are awesome. Team. Yeah, the captain, her name is Jean. Jean's Clay Studio is her Etsy shop, and she's just really great. And we have this team. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, she was like asking advice, and we were reading some of the old fellowship education, and I remember saying to her, writing this stuff and actually implementing it in real life is totally different. And it's pretty amazing to be able to be on this team and kind of try to work on participation and create challenges for people to stay engaged online with us and things like that.
Well, for me, it's really great because it's like a check and balance type system, because everything I learn by doing. And so I'm very much self-taught in almost everything I do. But you have the structure of your like job at Etsy. And like you were saying, you were forced to make lists and be so organized, because I said, I'm so not organized. I have a notebook just to make it look like I'm organized, but I'm really not.
It's a smiley face. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't even know what this is from.
Oh, yeah.
But so it's kind of nice because she thinks that she fills in the spaces that I kind of overlook. Yeah. And so you really helped me to kind of streamline everything and make this better. So
yeah, I think we make a good team.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it. I can't wait. This is my first selling event since 2009.
Oh, wow.
I've been out of the game for so long. So it'll be great to have, like, watch people hold my thing. And we should say the selling event is June 27th at Glass Coffee House in Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Yep.
Thank you. I was going to throw that in. It's the Handmade Chic Summer Market.
Yes. If you're in Milwaukee or Green Bay or anywhere, like, Sheboygan is pretty close to everything in Wisconsin. I feel like we're right in the middle. So,
and it's fun to say.
Yes, it is. Sheboygan.
Sheboygan. Kim, what's the name of the Etsy team that you mentioned?
Oh, we're called Made in Wisconsin.
Made in Wisconsin. Okay, I want to make sure I link to that in the show notes, in the podcast, in the blog post, so that people can.
Yeah, they have a Facebook page too.
Yeah, we have a Facebook page. We have a Pinterest board. We have all kinds of stuff. But you know what? I'll send you a link to our team after this podcast, so you have the accurate.
And we have a couple of shop owners from this team that are coming to Handmade Chic. Yeah. So that was pretty exciting, because everything that I've done up till this point has been pretty organic. It's like people who know me or know people who know me. And so I found people, and I found really great artists that way. Mm-hmm. So, but now Kim has kind of expanded my reach a little bit. So I was getting applications from all over the state, and it was just thing. Yeah. So
it's Faith, right? She's gonna Faith Ann of Faith Ann Originals. Yeah, she's a team leader. She's been incredible to work with too. I really enjoy talking with her when we get a chance to. She'll be at the market. I'm really so excited to meet her in person.
I know. She's probably much prettier than her avatar.
Her avatar is like clouds.
Oh yeah. It's very pretty, and nonetheless.
It is beautiful.
Okay, so that will be June 27th. Yeah. If you're in the area, please go and support these ladies. And I'll have all the information in the blog post on the show notes. So we have a bunch of questions to answer, and Kim thankfully has gone through them. And so we're going to just start hitting them up. So how we're going to do this is I'll read a question, and then Kim will give us an answer, and we'll talk about it a little bit as she responds. And then Angie and I will do the asking, and then Kim will do the answering. So shall we begin?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. So the first question is from Kelly. Kelly runs the Etsy shop Swaddle Me Snugly. And she has two questions, actually. So I'm going to start with her first question. Kelly asks, is there a way for those of us who have more than one shop to be able to be signed into all of our shops at the same time?
This question, along with her second question, I don't want to jump ahead, but I don't think so. I do want to mention that as far as first off the bat, I just want to say that I'm not speaking on behalf of Etsy. Oh, yes. I know we talked about mentioning that when in the introduction. But yeah, I think it's important for everyone to know that I am a former Etsy admin. I do advocate for Etsy. I think it's a wonderful, awesome company, and it's doing amazing things, and I could talk about it for weeks, actually. But as a seller right now, like as a woman, I'm just sitting here as a former admin, not speaking on behalf of Etsy, just kind of giving my opinions, and I'm not an expert in anything, but I do have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience helping sellers out with all the issues that come up. So as far as small tweaks and things like that, or even larger suggestions that people have offered, which I've read through, and I'm really impressed with how much time and thought people put into their suggestions. I don't have any influence over those on the inside, at least anymore. So this is a way. I don't actually know if there's. Okay, when I left Etsy, there was not a way to be signed into all your accounts at the same time. Mm-hmm. I actually just did a shop makeover for this creative little beast company that I just started participating with that we'll talk about later, where I discourage people from having 2 shops. And here's why.
Really?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm anxious to hear this.
Yeah. And like, I'm not avoiding her question. She should definitely go to the help desk or email or the awesome support team. I always seem to say our. Which I was a part of for a while, and they are super knowledgeable, and they'll get back to her on that. The reason I discourage having Etsy shops in most cases is because if you're building a brand, it's a lot of work. And shoppers aren't going to know really that you have 2 shops without linking back and forth. It's a much more streamlined, intuitive experience if people just come to your one shop and you have a variety of items there. This guy whose shop I just did a makeover for, he sells repurposed record consoles, vintage record consoles, and stereo speakers. And he was like, maybe I should radios. Maybe I should separate the 2 and have 2 different shops. Well, I think you're wasting an opportunity for people to shop more in your shops, right? So the more price points you have, the more variety you have in your shop, the better. I think it's really important to give people an opportunity and give them a boutique experience. And if you separate them all out into different shops, there's no guarantee that people are going to jump around and look at your other items.
Well, and I've always heard too that you want to keep people on your page as long as you can.
Yeah.
And so if you're sending them to another one of your shops, now you're getting them moving around.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy, especially on a site like Etsy where there's millions of sites or however many there are.
Yeah.
That you don't want them to jump off of your page. So you have enough to keep them there for a while.
Yep.
That they're going to be more prone to stay there and look at your stuff. And not leave the page.
And pro tip that you just made me think of something, Angie.
Okay.
In your descriptions, I do this on my shop, and I notice in my shop stats that lots of people are clicking. If you literally link to your other sections or items in your descriptions, people see that blue hyperlink and they click it. And I highly recommend doing that.
I do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally think that's awesome. I'm glad I do it in my shop. People
I need to do that more.
So, okay, Kim, you are in the process of just blowing my mind. What if a seller has 2 completely different product lines that are not related? Do you still think that they should house them all under one Etsy shop?
I'm glad you asked, because that's where I was going to go next. If you are like a business multitasker, and you feel like you have 2 solid different brands and they're different enough to have 2 Etsy shops, ultimately, you're going to be the one that makes that decision. Then do it, then go for it. But like, for example, I've got bibs and quilts in my shop. My quilts are, $150 to $200. My bibs are $9 or $10. I would never consider separating those 2 into different shops, because I love having a go-to thing in my shop for people to buy on the impulse. Mm-hmm. And then I want them to favorite my quilts and then think about it and then come back and buy it, because buying a quilt takes thought. And I take it very seriously that I charge so much I know that the work is really good, but I also know that that's a pretty serious amount of money to spend on a quilt. I guess if you really do have 2 different brands and you're running 2 different businesses, then that would be a reason.
I just thought of something else too, because in my shop I have the Bible covers and the handbags.
Yeah.
And then like accessories to go pretty much with the handbags or either, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go on to Etsy and search Bible covers, like when I made that first one, the reason that I sold so many of them is because when you searched that term, there was like 1 page.
Yeah.
There was hardly any, but there was a market for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I got really lucky in that sense.
Yeah.
I got in at the right time. So now I do show up a lot for Bible covers because I've sold so many of them. Mm-hmm. So I've had many, many times where somebody is searching for a Bible cover and they end up also buying a bag.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think if you have 2 totally different items, one of them might be a more general search term, one might be more specific. And I've just found that the traffic from one item actually brings traffic for the other one as well.
Yep.
So, because even if they just favorite a handbag when they're shopping for a vinyl cover, it's still getting up in the feed. I'm getting more likes.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about this down the road because there's a question about the front page. Favoriting is so important because now that the front page is not treasuries anymore, by collecting favorites, that's the more exposure.
Yeah.
The more favorites you have, the more exposure you get on the front page because everybody's front page is based on who they follow.
Yeah, that's true. So if someone sells both supplies as well as things they hand make, do you still suggest that those go under one brand if they're not related?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can brand them together, go for it. Like for example, let's say that I start designing fabric for my shop and I want to sell it by the yard as a supply. I would want to design fabric that would target the same customer as the hipster bandana bib that I have. So that's all in one place. You really just give them more opportunities to buy from your shop. Yeah.
Okay. Good idea. Kelly also had a second question, and it was more of a suggestion. And in summary, what she was suggesting was with the listing tool, if there could be a functionality added where listings can be tweaked to edit the description section, not just because like right now you can edit certain sections, but one of the problems she was having is having to go into each individual listing and changing something within the description. And so her suggestion was, it was more of a suggestion than a question, whether that can be made easier, really.
Sure. Well, that's a great suggestion, actually. I think that would be really helpful for a lot of sellers. I'm glad she brought that up. The listings manager, just I think within the last year, we got this new listing manager, which is beautiful. When you go to I'm looking at mine right now, it tells you how many views you've had in the last 30 days, how many favorites, all-time sales and all-time revenue, and how many renewals. And when this came out, I wanted to go hug the product manager, and I'll probably, I don't know who the product manager was. I feel like it was Nikki or Jamie, but oh my God, I just love it. I just love it.
I do too.
But she should suggest that in the forums. Etsy product managers read the forums. And my tip would be you're more likely to be heard if you reply in the forums the day of a launch. So when something launches, watch for the announcements. They'll give you those, if they still do it this way. I don't think it's changed. They'll make an announcement that usually they'll offer people to join a prototype team unless they're looking for a very specific group of folks to do the testing. But if you have an opportunity to join a prototype team, go for it. It's a win-win situation. If you have time to read through everything and give feedback, they read it. But then, give your opinions on the days that it launches and stay positive. Don't think that they're trying to ruin your business because, without sellers, there's no Etsy. So, of course, nobody on the inside's ever trying to ruin anybody's business. Now, I totally understand the frustrating part when things launch and things change and you have to relearn. Recently, I went through it on the inside as an admin, and then I recently went through it as a seller when the categories changed. But I took a deep breath and I thought, well, I'm going to experiment. And if things change on Etsy, I know that they put a lot of time, a lot of thought, a lot of experimenting went into it. It's not just emotions. It's also a lot of data. They read, there's some really incredibly smart people working there. And I don't know, I have faith in them. And so when things change and it doesn't seem to make sense to me, now I just really take a step back and I think, okay, what can I do to help make sense of this? Okay. A lot of times I'll do what's called an A/B test, and I'll put one listing in one category and one listing in another category, and I'll watch the views and the favorites and the sales over a 30-day period. And then I'll see which one is performing better in which category.
That's a good idea.
I also do the A/B test with titles, not just categories. So I'll say, well, I'm going to put baby in this title 3 times, and I'm going to put bib in this title 3 times, and then I'll compare the two after a 30-day period.
Oh, good idea.
So that you get kind of a better idea of like what keywords are working for you, and you get what categories are working for you.
Can I add something with the category change? Because I told Kim this like right after the categories changed. I was reading a lot of people complaining my category's gone.
Yeah.
And I started to panic too a little bit because my categories all changed too, and my Bible covers were under like the same category as it was really odd. It had nothing to do with what they were. And it wasn't until I like sat down and just really started to look that I found that my categories were not only not gone, but they were far more specific to my item.
Yeah.
So now my journals are under blank journals, under books. And before I would have them under, I think it was like under books and magazines and then other.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, and when things change, it's scary. And when you're used to something, it's scary when things change. But it's like, I don't know, it's nice to, I feel like I'm in a very lucky position. And I hope that after this podcast, people feel a little more comfortable with change on Etsy, knowing that, the people that are making the decisions, like the VPs and the executives and the managers, are making them with sellers in mind and buyers in mind. And, you know, it's my first manager, her name's Bernadette Sweeney. I'm a really big fan of her, and I want to give her a shout out all the time. We always used to tell people when they asked what it's like working at Etsy, we would be like, it's a little culty. We all were like really excited and really happy, and we all just like love helping sellers. It's a very seller driven company. It's awesome.
That's encouraging to know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what I mean by is that I loved working there, especially in the beginning. It was awesome.
Yeah.
When you left, how many employees were there?
Roughly? Almost 700. The 2014 progress report just came out yesterday, and I read through it briefly. And I think they said they had 685 employees at the end of the year.
Okay.
And I left in October of last year. Yeah.
Okay. So not even a year ago. Up to a year.
No.
All right. Oh, one of the things I'm doing as we're talking is I'm making notes of Kim's pro tips. Well, Kim and Angie's pro tips. So if you hear something, if you want to just review some of the pro tips that she's sharing, that they're both sharing, go to the blog, go to the website convome.com, and I'll have them all listed out there. Like what she said about linking to other shop sections and doing A/B testing, all that stuff. So we can go on to the next question, Angie.
Okay. So this one comes from Charlotte Sharkey. And her shop is called Caravan Fiber. And I looked, and it looks like she does some, it's really pretty. It looks like she does some like handmade yarns. They're all dyed by hand. So I thought that was kind of fun. Beautiful colors too. I love her pictures are really close up and clear. Okay. So Charlotte's question is, how do you envision the changes for Etsy sellers as fallout from the IPO? And I'll just kind of stop there. Or should I ask the second part? Right away.
She says, does she see if possible fee changes? That's actually a really important part. I do not foresee any fee changes ever. Again, I'm not speaking on behalf of Etsy, so take what I say with a grain of salt as a seller. Fee changes, I just don't see it happening. Talk about a way to enrage the community is, I understand that it's also a business, but I just, Etsy is really smart about that stuff. Like Etsy would rather offer shipping labels as a way to make revenue, or offer a really sophisticated promotional program, rather than charge, any more money for the fees, which that's one of the reasons I feel like it was culty, because I just loved the decisions that they made. Okay. As far as seeing how things as far as my envision of things changing for Etsy on a bigger picture, I see it being more profitable for Etsy sellers, because it just means that Etsy will be more known worldwide. And like it's
free advertising. Really.
Yeah, it's free advertising. Yeah. Like
the good and the bad.
Remember, like even 5 years ago, people would be like, what's this Etsy website or what's this Etsy website? And now it's in homes and people know about it. I was just we literally have a general store in the town I live in because it's so small.
That's
Evans.
so cute.
And,
I know Evans.
Yeah, and you can buy everything in there. So I was in there buying fabric and buttons, and the woman behind me was like, and the town I live in is really small, like compared to Brooklyn, it's only 3,000 people. The woman behind me says, "Oh, what are you going to make with that?" And I said, "Oh, I'm making bandana bibs. I have a son, but I'm trying to buy more girly stuff." And she goes, "Oh, do you just give them away or sell them?" And I said, "I sell them on Etsy." And she's like, "Awesome. What's your Etsy shop name?" And I'm like, "Love, this is so great."
Nice.
So, I mean, but also, like, Etsy is just a good company internally, too, because I don't know if many people know this, but it's a B Corp, and it's not easy to become a B Corp. And I even pulled up the definition of
I was going to say, can you give us the definition?
B Corp? Yeah, if you go to bcorporation.net, that's the website. Etsy became a B Corp in 2012, and I remember when Chad announced it, and he teared up. Chad's the CEO. And it was just really moving. You can become a B Corp. It's it's a fair trade certification. It's certified by the nonprofit B Lab to meet rigorous standards of social and environmental performance, accountability, and transparency. So there's I think 1,000 certified B Corps worldwide in 33 countries and 60 industries working together toward one unifying goal, which is to redefine success in business. Now, if that perks your interest, I highly recommend going to the B Corp site and reading more about it. I think maybe, I don't want to be misquoted or say something wrong, but I feel like some of the other companies that are B Corps can give you a really good idea of why it's a really important thing. I also, Etsy has this food program called Etsy, which is adorable. And
I didn't know that.
One of my best friends runs it. Her name's Katie Rose. She's like, everybody loves Katie Rose because she would feed us all, especially those of us that were pregnant there. So knowing that Etsy's doing great things internally and wanting to make a positive stamp in the world externally, it is just, I think it can only be good. I'm excited that they went public. I'm interested to see what happens over the next year. So yeah.
Okay. So Kim, I don't know if you're keeping an eye on the Etsy stock, but the price has been falling. Do you have any concerns about the company because the value of the stock price is falling, even though this is knowing that, in the stock market, things go up and things go down. And again, I will throw this out there again. Kim is not speaking on behalf of Etsy. She is just giving this is her own opinion.
Yeah, and I'm a stockholder, so I'm definitely
okay, good.
Yeah, I'm definitely watching the NASDAQ. So no, I'm not concerned at all. I mean, the Q2 just started. What month is this? It's almost
We're
June.
in May.
Yeah, so we're in Q2, and Etsy is mostly profitable at the end of the year, where the company is most of the revenue comes right around the holidays. So any kind of drop that happens now is not concerning whatsoever. I mean, to me, it's not. But I'm not really a finance person.
Right.
But no, I'm not concerned. It'll come back up.
Okay. Okay, so the next question is from Rachel. Rachel runs the Etsy shop Custom Hemp Treasures. And thank you, Angie, for mentioning what people sell. I didn't think to do it before, but Rachel sells bracelets and jewelry for couples, gifts for couples. So keychains, jewelry, bracelets. What else does she sell? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Necklaces too. And Rachel was my guest on the podcast as well.
I love her podcast too.
Yeah.
I listened to that. Oh, what's
Yeah.
the podcast? Custom Hemp Treasures.
Custom Hemp Treasures.
She's making a list of the podcasts she's got to catch up on.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay, okay, gotcha.
Rachel's question is, what does it really take to be featured in the Etsy finds? / what do they look for to be featured in Etsy finds?
Very good question.
I like that one.
I know, I'm really into it. So I was really excited to read this question because last year, I got to work with the one of the merchandising specialists at Etsy on a little bit of education to give to team captains that they can spread to their teams through the team fellowship program. Mm-hmm. And I had a couple of meetings with Emily, and she just was so passionate about merchandising and marketing and being smart about it. And she came across so genuine. We actually had a Skype call with a bunch of captains, and Emily gave this presentation about not only what Etsy looks for, but thinking about it bigger, thinking about merchandising specialists from, all over the internet. So we put together this this kind of like three-page online promotion packet, and I'm looking at it right now. And I would be happy to get what's her name?
Rachel's
email address and send this to her. But I can even share some of these.
Is this on the Etsy website, or is this just on your computer?
This is just on my computer.
Oh,
yeah.
Could you send it to me?
I will send it to you.
Thank you.
And I can send it to you too, Ijama. I think it's really important that people think about merchandising and curating their shops with the bigger picture in mind. So things like, we can even just say, what is merchandising? It's a function that promotes the sales of products on Etsy through strategic placement and display. When a merchandising specialist is curating an email like Etsy finds, their primary concern is that the buyer has a good shopping experience. So they're looking for shops with strong brand identity, and they're looking for shops who have a lot of inventory. And don't quote me on that. I think that that's a good idea to have a lot of inventory, because if you're going to be featured in an Etsy finds, you're going to get a lot of sales most likely, and you want to make sure that you have a lot. So that's just my suggestion. I think it's important to have a really strong brand and think about your buyer and your customer. Focus on that more than getting featured in Etsy finds, because the merchandising specialist will find you if you have a strong brand and if it's what they're looking for. Some tips that I have are so this is actually from one of the merchandising specialists directly. She says, our primary concerns are shopping experiences, brand marketing, and making sure that you have something strong. Curating an Etsy email is not about, in my opinion, it's not about making sellers feel good. It's about getting the buyer to click and telling a story through curation. And I got to curate one ages ago, right, for my wedding. I was like, I want to make one out of all wedding things. It was 2010. And it was a lot of work. And you have to really make sure that you are going to catch the eye of a buyer through your curation. So we were saying, and I just want to touch on this a little bit, did you get the part about how we were talking about your target customer, about how we were talking about writing a story about them?
No.
Oh my gosh. That's far
we were
back.
gone for a while.
Yeah, we did. We were in the zone. Since moving here, I've been helping one of my in-laws with her Etsy shop. Her shop's called Oma Designs. And she came over last week, and we were just talking about who her customer is. And believe it or not, this exercise can really help you strengthen your brand, which can help you strengthen your photos, which can help you get found. Write down who your target customer is. Get a journal and a pen and go old school if you want, or you can get on your computer and just tell a story about who she is, where she shops, how old she is or he is. Really think about who you're trying to focus on buying your stuff, and that can really help you focus on your brand.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fun exercise to do. I like to do it.
Okay.
But as far as merchandising and getting found, think big. Think about your buyers. Think about industry professionals. Think about the press. The press are looking for products that tell stories and engage their audiences. Professional buyers, even wholesale businesses, they're looking for items that will sell well to their audiences. So these are people who know who they're trying to reach, and they're looking for someone who has that strong identity as well, and through their products.
Okay.
And also think about gifting. I think this is a huge one. How can your items be gifts? I think personally with my shop, I thought, well, I don't know, as a mom, I don't know if I would spend $10 on a bib, but I know that my mom, my son's grandma, is going to want to buy something real cute off Etsy for $10.
Yeah.
And so my target market is mainly grandmas and best friends and aunts and people who want to buy a gift for a new mom.
That makes sense. Okay. Angie?
All right. So we are moving on to Tammy Edmondson. And she would like to know, what is the single most strategy to get more views and sales?
There isn't a single strategy to getting more views and sales.
I wish there was.
Despite nobody wanting to hear that, right? Exactly. There are so many factors to getting more views and sales, and it's subjective, and it's also a lot of work, and it's experimenting. It's knowing who you're selling to. It's your photos. I can't even stress enough. I'm going to say it twice. It's so important to have photos that appeal to the customer. You essentially are selling a picture of your things. They're not able to touch it. They're not able to smell it. You need to really set the story with your photos. Angie told me once that she had this one picture of a handbag in front of a barn.
Yeah.
Will you tell me what you told me just about how great it was? That one photo told us a huge story.
It did. And actually that is kind of my branding photo. And that bag, that was the photo that got featured on the Etsy Finds twice. I think within a week it was in the Etsy Finds twice. That photo got a magazine approached me about printing that photo. And all it was just a picture of me. Actually, it was in this dress that I'm wearing today.
I love that dress.
Standing in front of the barn, holding a mustard yellow ruffle bag.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know the one.
Yes. So that has kind of become my brand, because it really told me that, because I was hearing from customers too, that what they really related to was just the whole feel that picture exuded, I guess.
Absolutely.
So it was just kind of crazy how much attention I got for that one picture. And just actually last week, I'm really horrible at this kind of thing. I completely ran out of business cards, and I'm really bad about that. And so I needed to order some new ones, and I was trying all these different things, and guess what? I went back to that same exact picture, and I'm using it again, even though that bag is not my top seller anymore.
Yeah.
But I just kind of feel like it branded who I am.
Yeah.
So I just think it's important to kind of take the things from those pictures and things that people that speak to them.
Yeah. And it's frustrating, photos can be frustrating, but it really is all an experiment. I got so used to photographing bibs on my son that when I started making quilts, and I found it wasn't easy to photograph quilts, I was frustrated as heck. And I was like, how am I going to do this? I'm giving up. I'm not selling them, But now I'm finally coming to terms with the fact that it's going to be fun, and we're going to experiment, and I'm going to find a barn.
It's not hard to do here.
But also I want to mention tags and titles. The next question is about search engine optimization as well.
Yeah.
I would really suggest getting a third party to look at your shop and giving you feedback, whether it's your family members, and you'd be surprised at how much your family members will support you. They want you to grow, or your friends. When you are following a dream, or you're being proactive by making and selling your stuff and becoming an entrepreneur, people really do want to help you. So have someone over for coffee and just have them throw out a bunch of words and write them all down. And you can use these as keywords to ask them, if you're looking for something in my shop, what do you think of? What does this picture tell you? And you can learn a lot from a third party, because I know I'm an artist first and a business person second is the way I think of myself. Mm-hmm. And the artist gets in my own head, and I'm getting in these little ruts, and I'm I don't know what keywords I need to use. So I go out and I ask people to help me.
Okay. That makes sense. The next question is from Cara. Cara runs the Etsy shop Cara's Vineyard Wedding, and Cara was a guest on the podcast too. I love Cara.
I know her. It's another good one.
Yeah. And her question is about Etsy SEO. So like a lot of other people, there's some frustration about using keywords and showing up, what shows up in Etsy search. And so one of what Cara says is that when she types in her keywords, things show up that you wouldn't really expect. Listings with 2 sentences in the description, pictures that are blurry, date stamps on the photos, keywords that don't match the title, the description, the tags, things that we've all read you need to do in order to show up in search. And so her question is, do you have any insider secrets or tips for how Etsy really categorizes items and how we can get to the top of these searches?
So many things are going through my head right now. I'm like, or squares because I can't write fast enough to remind myself to say everything. Well, I'll just start by saying there are no insider secrets that I know of, honestly. I think it's really a compare and contrast game to see what works for your shop. We were talking about A/B tests earlier. I highly recommend trying those. Just opening up a spreadsheet, putting in the title, and then watching that for 30 days and then comparing it to another one at a different title and seeing which one is getting more views. Okay, here's some tips. Definitely, like, your keywords that are most heavily weighted in search are going to be the first ones in your title. So use those accordingly. If you title, let's say I titled my quilt, You Are My Sunshine. I don't want to put that in the title of my Etsy listing. I want to put baby quilt and I want to probably use the word baby a couple of times, maybe use blanket as well. I love being creative with naming my items, but I need to think about what the buyer is going to look for. Yeah. Now, when you are typing in the search query in Etsy and you see those words that pop up, that's what people are using. Look at that, use those and try to incorporate some of them into your shop, into your tags and your titles. Also, I don't know if everybody knows this. I wouldn't worry too much about keywords in your descriptions. Etsy SEO is, or Etsio, as we lovingly called it, is really mostly based on titles and tags. Okay. If there is a big secret, I remember I was writing this down last night. It's definitely in the search algorithm, which is a huge, big, complicated algorithm that changes all the time. So unless you are like a computer engineer who specifically works on search, it's really, really hard to understand what that is. And I definitely had like lunch with search engineers and beers back in the day, but I'm like, okay, explain it to me. How does this work? And it's just something that I personally couldn't grasp. But what I can grasp, and what I think everybody can grasp, is being able to use your creative mind to think about words that shoppers use to find your stuff.
Okay.
And then I recommend really keep an eye on your shop stats. Keep an eye on what works. And in your shop stats, you can choose which period of time you want to look at. So you can look at everything that's going on today, or you can stretch that out to the past 30 days, or you can stretch it out to the past year, or you can use a specific amount of time. Use those tools to figure out and make decisions based on that. And don't forget to think about the big picture. Don't let yourself get too focused on, for example, a title that you gave a piece that you made. I would really think about gifting, who is this for? Gifts for him, gifts for her, gifts for mom, things like that.
Kim, do you know if the Etsy search algorithm is a secret, like something that the engineers aren't supposed to share?
I have no idea.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I've never been asked that question, actually.
I was actually just thinking, with promoted listings.
Yeah.
One thing is, because I do promoted listings.
Yeah.
And I don't have a real high budget. I keep it kind of low. But what is helpful is I'm able to see the items that pop up a lot in my promoted listings.
Yeah.
So then I can tell that those items probably have stronger keywords in them because they're getting more hits.
Yeah.
So then the items that I probably don't have as good a keywords on are probably the ones that I've never seen pop up in my promoted listings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can learn a lot about keywords if you do promoted listings.
Yeah.
Because Etsy will give you a bunch to use, I think, right? I haven't done promoted listings.
No, I don't
That was
think
the
so.
one before.
That was the one before, I think. Like you could take off your tags and stuff like that. It's a little bit different now. It's a bid system.
Oh, cool. I'll have to try that.
I know. I don't fully understand it. I'm learning. But
Can I just say how relieving it is to not know an answer to something and not have to like answer to anybody when I get home? Like, you own that. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know, but I don't work at Etsy anymore.
and I can find it. I feel like it.
Yeah. Maybe I'll research later. Okay. No, I didn't mean to imply that it's a secret. I realize now that might have sounded like that. It's just that search algorithms are, engineers work on them and they get paid a lot of money because they do crazy work and it's crazy awesome work. And I admire what they do and I don't get it. Yeah.
No, the reason I was asking is because I know that we all, like, if you troll around on the internet looking for how to sell successfully on Etsy or how to rank higher in the search results, there are lots of theories out there. And the reason I was asking was I wanted to know if it's not a secret, then maybe I can try and reach out to one of the engineers that writes the code that can come and talk about what goes into ranking high.
That's such a good idea.
That is a great idea.
But I also think that that's like Etsy shares that information already. Like there's a lot of articles on the handbook about, SEO. And we talk a lot about that in this Creative Little Beast thing we're going to mention at the end of the program. Like, it's not about, you don't need to understand the algorithm. What you need to do is understand what works for your shop. It's very subjective. It's relevant to what you're trying to sell. Okay. So what works for me isn't going to work for Angie and vice versa. There isn't just one formula for it. Everybody's different.
And that's where it pays to know your market too.
Yep. Right.
Because if you know how that person is searching and the terms that they're using to search.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think that would be super interesting for you to interview an engineer. I don't think it'll be very exciting. but I worked the last 2 years I worked at Etsy, I worked on the seller education team, and we were the team that made education exciting and wrote articles based on, what we learned and the launches that we studied and that we worked with the product managers who worked with the engineers. And so it's a pretty good machine over there. And the output in the Etsy Seller Handbook is quality. And, it's right there. It's right there for you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, reading it is one thing. I do think it's a lot of help to join a team, talk to people, go find a seller at a market and make her your friend.
Even the Etsy Conversations podcast Facebook page has a lot of good people.
Thanks.
And that is growing a lot too. So there's a lot of good people on there.
I'm sorry. What was that?
I said your page is growing so much that there's always a lot of good information and there's good chats and stuff. And
yeah, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Quick plug for you. Seriously, I'm enjoying conversations on there so much. And here's why. People, for the most part, are very inquisitive and positive. And it's not a place where I know that Etsy forums has a long reputation of being kind of a place where the loud, squeaky people go to complain. What I admire about your Facebook group is that people are asking questions. They want to have a conversation with each other. And I look forward to getting on Facebook and seeing what they're talking about, seeing if I can, I don't know when you tag me, because otherwise I'll miss stuff. And then I can go in there, have a meaningful conversation about SEO, or should I put my shop on vacation, or what should we be calling handmade markets these days? These are just some examples of.
Those were great threads. Too.
Yeah, they were so powerful. Yeah. I highly recommend this Facebook page and this podcast to sellers.
I had quite a few local people calling me about that one thread about what we should call market. People were calling me and talking to me about that too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, guys. And just so everyone knows, most of those conversations were started by other people in the group, not me, which is what I love about it, that I don't have to run the conversations or start the conversations. They're just genuinely people who just genuinely want to find answers or have discussions. And so I'm happy to be hands off, but I love jumping in the conversations because they're always good.
You have built an online community that so many people strive for. And you hit a sweet spot where it's respectful and interesting and smart. And I'm really impressed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, me too. I'm glad you did go there.
Thank you, Angie.
Do you mind? Because the next question actually has a lot to do with what we're talking about. So I don't know if you did that on purpose or not, Ijama, but good job if you did. Putting them in order. So do you mind if I read that?
Please go ahead.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So our next question is coming from Diane, and her Etsy shop is called Muddy Waters Ceramic Creations. And I was just looking, she's got some really cute, one-of-a-kind ceramics in here.
Yeah.
I just
makes very pretty
eggs. So there's some fun, whimsical stuff, but also some just beautiful things. I'm just drawn to anything like this, like completely made by hand.
I think I bought a Mother's Day gift from her like 5 years ago.
Did you really?
I did.
What a small world.
Nice.
Go on.
Okay. Okay, so let me go back to her question. Okay, so she was asking about the Etsy changing their front page and their policies for what is acceptable merchandise. And so she's referring to relevance and keywords and listings and things like that. So kind of the same thing that we were talking about. So she was asking, she was saying that the title should sound like the description that you gave your item if you were speaking to someone face to face. I've heard that you should use keywords or phrases in the tags that match the keywords in the title. And on the other hand, that they should be different keywords or phrases. And I will agree with this. I've heard both ways too. So can you clarify which factors really affect relevance and which rumor is closest to reality?
I like that. Which rumor is closest to reality?
Because, you get conflicting stories no matter where you go. And I think some of that has to do with, like, what's relevant on Google might be different than relevant on Etsy, too, sometimes.
Maybe.
So there's probably some truths to both, but...
Yeah. I'm so nervous to answer this question because I don't want to get it wrong.
Oh.
No, I know it's like I've got that whole, like, take what I say and don't attack me if I'm wrong. But like, try it, and if I'm wrong, tell me. And hopefully something will work. I feel like we're all in this together as sellers, and we're obviously we all have very similar questions. And believe me, if I knew the secret to getting found forever, I'd be like, hey guys, here's the secret. But it's very, it's very good that there's a secret, because this puts us all on the same plane.
Yeah.
And we can all work better at better business people and being balanced entrepreneurs. So that's just my little soapbox. Now I'm going to get back to the question. Okay. Diane says she's heard that you should use keywords or phrases in the tags that match keywords in the title. And on the other hand, there should be different ones. I was saying, no matter what I tell you, try doing that and not doing that. I say that because it really is going to be what works for you. I repeat words all the time. What I do in my shop is I use the word baby bib in my titles a couple of times. I like to make it look neat because I like design, so I do a couple not hashtags, but like diagonal marks in between phrases. And I was saying this earlier, and I hope that it's sorry to repeat myself, but it's really important that the words in the first few words of your titles are like the most heavily weighted in search. So use those to your advantage. Yeah. Like let's say you make ceramic mugs. Put ceramic mug right there and use colors there, and think about style, and think about your customer.
Okay. The next question is more of a suggestion. It's from Beate, and I'll summarize what she's suggesting, which we talked about this earlier. You've heard this suggestion in the past.
Yeah.
And what she's suggesting is that Etsy separate categories of goods into vintage, fine art, and handmade. And let's just talk about that.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. But here's why I don't think it'll work. Okay. By separating by separating Etsy into three different kind of categories, it limits the buyer's experience. And when the buyer comes to Etsy, you want to have as much of a chance to be found as anybody. So it's important to be in the mix with everyone. You know, if somebody's looking for modern art, let's say, for example, and they come to Etsy and I tag one of my modern quilts with modern art, because down the road, I'd like to actually be selling them as art pieces that for your wall or for your children's nursery. I want to be in the same category as someone who's painting. I want to catch the eye of that seller, or of that buyer who may not know that they want my art yet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's important to keep it all together. It's more work on our end, but that's where, again, like knowing who your customer is, knowing who you're selling to, and having strong keywords, and developing these A/B tests and developing experiments to know what keywords work for you, and changing those over time, and not getting too stuck on a few keywords and saying, well, those worked and now I'm not seeing any sales. Try something new. You know, I think it's really important to stay positive and be open to experimenting.
Okay. And that does make sense, I guess, to offer more items, so there's more to shop from.
Yeah.
And I guess from a shopper's standpoint, even though you might get onto Etsy looking for one thing, it's possible that you could see something else that's related that you didn't think you might have wanted. And so it kind of makes sense to keep it all together.
Think about just your own shopping experience. Like whenever, let's say, like I went to Target the other day and I went in for onesies for my son. I just wanted to get like a package of white onesies that he can wear in the summer. And I ended up buying 3 dresses for myself. They were on sale. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm here. I'm spending the time. I'm just going to get them now and just wipe it all in one full swoop. So like people shop that way. And like entire marketing industries are developed to help us make those decisions. Yeah. You want to, like on Etsy, you want to be in the mix. You want to be with everybody. Yeah. And competition is good for you. And it's like healthy competition makes you a better business person.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. The next question is from Charlie. Charlie runs the Etsy shop Zoot Usine, and I might not be saying that correctly. I did an Etsy shout out for her shop, and I never did ask how to say it because I wrote it, but it's Zutusine. And her question is, I'm trying hard to understand SEO. I don't get found in search very often and would love some basic advice on product titles and keywords with specific relevance to Etsy. I think we kind of touched on that.
We did, but I have a little more I can say about it. I want to reiterate that there's a lot of great articles on the Etsy Seller Handbook about SEO, and like basic SEO, like getting started. And recently, since I left, I noticed the Seller Handbook got a new design, and it's kind of revamped to help you search more easily.
It's so much easier to navigate now.
I'm so happy to hear that. I was so happy to see that. I got so used to just doing Google searches for articles on the Etsy Seller Handbook. I still do that. I'm still in that rut. Try both and see if it comes up some articles for you. I would like to say that like understanding SEO is not really like riding a bike. Each shop requires slightly different strategies. Each shop requires different keywords. I had said this earlier, but like, here's even more detail behind using your friends and family. Send an email out to 10 people that love you and trust you and that you also love and trust. And, send them a link to your shop and ask them to send you back 5 words that describe your shop. And then use these, try them. Try to use these words in your tags and in your titles. And, they are going to be a third party, and they're going to be an outside shopper. They're not going to be so in it like we tend to get when we're working on our Etsy shops. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say, like, I feel you guys, it is a lot of work to run an Etsy shop, and it can be tiring, like not only are you making, if you're running a handmade shop, not only are you like thinking about a design, making the design, if you're using manufacturing, trying to find one that meets your standards and that is like transparent and sustainable and good for you and your company, like you have to get online and like make all these listings and think about how you're going to pay yourself. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
But it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to do all that. And I just kind of working at Etsy made me realize you're always working on your shop. You're just always going to be working on it. And that's the beauty of running a business. And if you don't like it, maybe try something else. You know.
We talked earlier about this, and one of the things you mentioned was for sellers to view Etsy as a tool in a toolbox, not the end all be all.
Totally. Yeah. You'd be amazed at how much more freedom you'll feel once you make that emotional disconnect from Etsy, that once you realize that Etsy is not going to, launch your business into the atmosphere unless you do a heck of a lot of work. I don't even think that's it. It's not a heck of a lot of work. It's really like Etsy's a marketing tool. People know it's a household name. It's a beautifully designed website. There's a lot of reasons to sell on Etsy, and I'll always have my Etsy shop, but think about branching out and don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah. By having another shop somewhere else online, I think that you actually learn the benefits of Etsy and like, oh yeah, this is way easier to do on Etsy. Like I love shipping profiles, and I love the listings manager, and it's just good to keep yourself balanced and like have your like put your eggs in a few baskets and think about Etsy as a really great marketing tool where there's an audience of people that will find you.
Okay. One of the things that, and this isn't a question, I'm just bringing this up because this is something that just happened earlier this week. Amazon launched their handmade line, I guess their site for selling handmade goods. Right. Is that something that you would consider selling on? Because I'm thinking of signing up, just again, as another tool in the toolbox, just to check it out.
I always think about trying other things, and then I'm like, when am I going to have time to do that?
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not disenchanted with Etsy at this point in my handmade business, because I'm running the whole show by myself. So Etsy's perfect for me right now. I can have just one page of listings and work on things slowly. I'm kind of in a product development point right now where I'm working on my fall line, and right now it's the end of May. It's beginning of summer. I'm working in my bedroom making like wall hangings and quilts and thinking and sketching and doing all that right now. So I feel like we should have this conversation again in September. Or, we don't need to, but.
No, I was just about to say, do you promise to come back in September?
Oh, sure.
I would love to have the conversation again.
Yeah, totally. Because I think I'll just be in a different phase as far as a seller goes. Because I'll be like, now I'm marketing and now I'm wanting to sell everything that I've put my heart into. And that's a really fun, frustrating, exciting phase to be in. I can't wait for it.
Okay. Is there anyone you would not recommend sell on Etsy? Like, is there anyone you could think of that you would discourage from selling on Etsy? I know that's kind of a weird question.
Well, except for like the obvious people that don't meet the guidelines on Etsy. Mm-hmm. I think it's more exciting to think about who should sell on Etsy. And I was just thinking about this. I was going to mention it, and I'm glad you asked this question. I was in Chicago at the One of a Kind market, which is this beautifully curated, gigantic handmade market started in Toronto. And Etsy usually goes to the one in Chicago every year. And I got to go a couple of years in a row. And I would meet people that have been running their creative businesses for years, and they were established and they had their website. And I always was like thinking, you should, if you're this established and you've done all the hard work, just open an Etsy shop. That'll be easy for you. That'll be like peas and carrots, because all it can do is be another revenue stream for you. Right. And like I was saying before, like it's great marketing. And when you say you have an Etsy shop, now I think that there was kind of like, oh, well, Etsy's like too crafty, or my stuff is more upscale. but I don't know. I'm just more of like let's just try it and see what happens. Like, I don't think that Etsy is too crafty. And I think that Etsy's made a lot of changes. Like, I think the quality of Etsy products have really gone up. Yeah. Like it's just, I'm never disappointed when I shop. I can actually have to not shop on it because I always buy something.
Okay. All right. So the next question is from Kathleen Lina House. Mm-hmm. And she runs the Etsy shop Real Jewelry Design. Mm-hmm. And her question is about treasuries. And she quotes something that she read on Etsy. It says, get involved by creating a treasury list. We select from these lists to feature items on Etsy's homepage and always come across new items and shop while in the process. And so her question is, how true is this statement? If you do not create a treasury, what are you missing out on? How does Etsy find them? How large do they need to be discovered and reviewed? And are they listed somewhere on the site for all to see?
Okay. Let's answer the first question. How true is this statement? In all caps, I'm telling you that it's not true. Anymore. The Etsy front page used to be a rotating community curated treasury for years. And that changed, I want to say, about a year and a half ago. I'm not very good with time frames, but I worked there when the front page changed. And it went from, community curated treasuries to more of like your, I don't know if you guys remember your shop activity feed. It looks more like that. And it's really important to think about. It's actually really cool because you have more control over what you see on your front page, and you have more control over being featured on a front page. Now, everybody's front page is different because it's based on what they like and who they follow. Yeah. I always, I'm pretty particular now about who I follow because I know that when I go to my front page, I want to see things that really appeal to my likes and my aesthetic and what I like to shop for. So I heart a lot of things. I have a lot of favorite lists, but I really like to follow people that it's kind of like a Pinterest board. Like, you want to follow boards that will populate interesting things in your on your homepage on Pinterest. So I just want to say another thing about treasuries. If you're making more than one treasury a day, you're making too many.
Oh, really?
This is just my opinion, but nobody really buys from treasuries, I don't think. I think most shoppers are using search queries, either on Etsy or on Google. And you can find treasuries on the front page. There's a link on the right side, I believe. And they're super fun to make with your team. And lots of teams have treasury games. And it's really fun to I think it's a great way to exercise your own curation eye. But I wouldn't waste too much time on them.
Okay.
I think it's now that they're not part of the front page, they're not part of, I don't even think they're featured on the app. I might be wrong. You need to be thinking about especially the app. We haven't talked about the mobile app, but I think when you are working on your shop, you need to think about your photos being and what they look like on your iPhone or what they look like on your Android or they look like on an iPad. And you can see in your shop stats if you're showing up, if people are finding you through a mobile device as well. So, people don't use desktops as much as they use iPhones and mobile devices. So,
do you think the treasury games have much benefit or hold any value anymore? Because, there are teams that are specifically geared towards creating treasuries to help promote team member shops.
Yeah.
Do you think they still have as much value or benefit now as they might have back in the past?
Maybe. I think the value that they hold are, first of all, team camaraderie, and they keep people engaged on Etsy. And there is a certain amount of exposure that you can get to by making treasuries with your teams. Because essentially, at the end of the day, buyers are sellers too. So you are reaching a buyer's eye, even if they are a team member who sells. But I'm not saying don't make them. I'm just saying don't waste too much time. I think I heard my friend Danielle told me that like there was somebody she heard was making like 50 treasuries a weekend or something. And I just feel like that time could be better spent on like searching for blogs that might feature your items, or doing some keyword research, or maybe thinking about how you can change your photographs to attract more eyes on them, and revamping your descriptions and things like that. I mean, treasuries they do hold some value, but to answer your question, I personally don't think they hold as much as they used to.
Okay. All right. So then the next question is from Doug Harvey, and he runs the Etsy shop Brightworks. And Doug asks, why does the amount of followers you can follow cap at 1,080 people? And why can't you see who out of those 1,080 followers is actually following you? And he gives an example, because on Twitter you can see who follows you and who you follow, but not so on Etsy.
Yeah, this is one of those questions that I don't know the answer to. This is something that I keep saying that the Etsy support team would be able to give you details on. This is one of those like decisions that were made that they have reasons behind, that they probably have an answer they can get back to you right away with. I would recommend writing into Etsy for that.
So do you recommend that Doug ask the question to Etsy support?
Yep. And you can find that at the bottom of any page you're on Etsy. There's a big help button. And you can either ask in the forums. You'll probably get an answer quicker or more quickly in the forums. Or you can, under this title that says "No luck," contact us and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Okay.
The support team is amazing. Like I said before, I was actually hired to be on the support team, and I worked on that team on and off for a year and a half or something. And I was just like, I can't believe how well we're treated in the company. And it was actually like really fun work. It was a really cool job. So you're reaching people who are happy and not not hating what they do, and very knowledgeable about the site.
So when people reach out to support, they generally, the people on the other end at Etsy are looking forward to helping you and to responding to your question or your request.
Totally.
Okay, yeah. That's good to know. Okay.
It's like I was saying before, like when my manager, Bernadette, we would always say like Etsy's a little bit culty, because we really like love what we do. Like anybody from the supporter to, a writer editor to marketing, to engineering to, the VPs, like it's a really neat company full of very interesting people who believe in what Etsy is doing to change the world, like reimagining commerce as we know it. It's pretty remarkable.
Were you there when the original founder left Etsy? I can't remember his name now.
Oh yeah, Rob Kalin.
Yeah.
I was there the second time.
The second time?
Yeah, because he started the company, and then the CEO named Maria took over, and I got hired after Maria left and Rob came back. So he came back, and then a few months later, I started the company. Okay. So I worked with him as CEO, and then Chad took over. And I don't remember. I don't remember exactly what year, but for the majority of me working there, Chad was our CEO, and Chad is one of the coolest guys I've ever met. Yeah, he really is. He's just like, I don't know. I can't even tell you how many times I've just like stood next to him and just had small talk, and like we usually talk about music. And his wife is from Wisconsin. And she's from Appleton, which is really close to here. So I don't know. I just really always liked him. And he always remembered my name. And it wasn't like, oh, God, I hope he remembers my name. It was just like we were friends.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, Kim. Hey, Chad. Just really nice guy.
I once saw a conversation he was having with someone on Twitter. Because I toy with the idea of reaching out to him to be on the podcast. But then I think, oh, no, why would he?
No, you should. You totally should.
And what was the question? Oh, it was someone who had put herself through grad school selling on Etsy. And so he was congratulating this person. I don't know how he saw her tweet. And I don't know how I saw the tweet, the conversation between them. And I thought that is really cool that he just happened to see this. And maybe someone flagged it and told him, I don't know, and was having a conversation with this person. And I thought, that's nice.
Chad is so down to earth, and in this company for the sellers, he just drove my inspiration through the roof. I was so proud to work for the company that he was CEO of. And I hope he sticks around for a long time, because I think he's
good for the company.
Yeah, I really do. Like I when I was there, I felt like he was the right guy for the job. And I was just very proud of being there. And he started a talent show. I don't even know if I'm supposed to talk about it, but Etsy has a talent show, and it's only admin. And we go on stage, and I did a magic show. I pretended like I dressed as a man, and I was one half of the team Card Wizards, and we did magic tricks and to some weird jazz music in the background. And I was like, only Chad would have us do a talent show where this would be cool. Yeah, it was really cool. And he performed at each one, and he's just like, has a guitar in his office, and you can go in and jam with him. I mean, obviously he's in meetings and things like that, but we had a songbook. Oh my gosh, I could talk about this. I should probably cut this off, but this last thing I'll say is we had a songbook that had all these songs and all the chords for guitars. And if we were ever celebrating something when the company was small enough to all fit in the kitchen, we'd get the songbook out, and there would be like 3 or 4 people with guitars, and sometimes I was one of them. And we would just sing all these dumb songs together, country songs, and fun like Oasis songs, and just I don't know. It was like a very family feeling place.
So you play the guitar?
A little bit.
Oh, nice. See, that sounds like a company that needs to be out here in the Bay Area. That's how the startups are out here. Just
totally.
Okay. Sandy, the next question is from Sandy. Sandy doesn't have an Etsy shop yet. And so she wants to know, because she's exploring, what unique benefits do you think Etsy has for someone who's new considering selling on Etsy?
I think the biggest unique benefit is that Etsy is the name that really brought handmade to the internet in a really strong way. There were definitely other sites that did it, but Etsy is the one I think that has done it best so far. I really do. I'm impressed. I think Etsy's grown with the sellers. Etsy's had to make some controversial decisions to make that growth. But I support it, and it's just kind of like anything. You have to learn to adapt and grow with your or move on. It's one of it's all there's it's not very linear. You really have to be comfortable with change, even though it's not easy. Now I know that like everybody's definition of handmade varies slightly, but it's just really remarkable. Like I said, when you say the word Etsy, people know what it is, even in small town Wisconsin here where I am. It was really, I mean, the next thing I want to do is when I see that woman at the store again, I'm going to be like, hey, do you want to start an Etsy shop? I can help you. Come over.
She'd probably jump on it too.
I would totally do that. I actually want to start a group at the local library and just do like, selling online tips. And my neighbor is a quilter, and she also has a quilting guild that meets at the library. And I'm getting brave enough to go to one of the meetings and just be like, hi guys. I'm afraid they're all going to look at me like I'm an alien, but and then just kind of like helping people make a little money off of what they make. It doesn't have to. You get to set your own goals as an Etsy seller, and you should be willing to have those goals be malleable. Like if you want to quit your day job and that's your goal, well, then don't stop until you get there. But in the meantime, like it might be a hobby, or maybe something else will come up. And right now, all I want to do is cover the cost of my supplies. and anything extra is a bonus. And that's going to change, like especially when the holidays come around. I'm probably going to want to, at some point down the road, fund a family vacation. Yeah. But I need to know what kind of work balance goes into it. And I'm getting off on a tangent a little bit, but I think it's so important to be happy. And if you're not happy, take a good look at what's making you unhappy and work on changing it.
Okay. I completely agree with knowing what your goals are for selling on Etsy. And that's one of the questions I recently started asking my guests, because I think everybody's goal when they get on Etsy is different. And some people jump on without a goal. And I think that can easily lead to frustration if you don't know why you're on there. So like you said, it could be just to cover the cost of your supplies because you just really enjoy making what you make. It could be for something specific and finite, like a vacation. It could be for side income, so ongoing. So anything you get is icing on the cake that you already have.
Yeah, and it could be supplemental income for your toddler's college fund when they're old enough. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of it. Vacation sounds so lovely and it's like such an awesome problem. But I mean, I know that there's a lot of sellers on Etsy that are really relying on that income. But I just want these sellers to be realistic and not be so hard on themselves. And if they're not getting it on Etsy and they feel like they've done everything they can, start by, branching out or getting a shop critique and getting some ideas on how to change, or how to update and how to reach a new audience. I mean, there's just like so many things you can do to span your wings even farther.
Yeah. Sandy's second question was, what type of products are high in demand with low supply? Are there any niches, depending on where you are, that Etsy feels is oversaturated?
Well, again, I can't speak on behalf of Etsy, but generally speaking, this is really subjective. Like, for example, when I used to make big, chunky crocheted scarves, I thought that market was oversaturated, but because I noticed them, all I saw was my competition. Some of you, like, let's say you make silver hoop earrings, you are going to notice all the other silver hoop earrings on Etsy. Whereas, whenever I shop for silver hoop earrings on Etsy, I just kind of pick which photograph I like the best that has the same kind of size and look that I want, that very simple look. I don't know if some of you old school sellers probably remember when owls were everywhere, and that kind of felt like that was more of like a fad, I think, so there are like these kind of bigger fads. I think maybe the new owl is like a fox. There's a lot of fox jewelry out there. But I think what is important to do is, there's going to be fads and there's going to be biases, and you are definitely going to be more prone to notice your competition than a general buyer is. But it's important to stay true to yourself and to enjoy what you make, and not worry too much about the oversaturation. I mean, honestly, like I would love to still make chunky scarves, but I lost interest in it because so many other people were doing it, in my opinion, so much better that I was like, I'm gonna change my product a little, and I'm gonna maybe think about doing something for kids now because I know it'll excite me. And there's a lot of bandana bibs on Etsy. It's not like I picked a super, product that I'm the only one selling it, but I really enjoy it. And like, I love looking at my competition and seeing what they're doing and being inspired by them. And it doesn't upset me if I lose a sale to somebody who sells like a chevron design, because I'm choosing to stick with more like plaids and more kind of primary colors. And I really love, I'm really proud of like the fabrics that I choose. Okay. So it's important to like, I don't know, just stay true to yourself and enjoy what you make. Yeah, not worry so much about the competition, but keep an eye on it,
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, the last question. Is it the last one? Yes. The last question is from Kathleen again. Kathleen, who runs the Etsy shop Real Jewelry Design. And she says, well, the day she sent it, she got an email from Etsy and she was looking at the trending necklace section. And she says that she noticed in the first 2 pages, some listings were repeated of the exact same product. And, in this particular instance, it was an expensive and beautiful Dior vintage piece that was shown twice within 2 pages.
Yeah.
And at first she thought they had listed it twice, but when she dug further, there was actually only 1 listing for it. So she wants to know, how did that shop get their product listed twice and they were not ads?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't really know what to tell you except for that bothers me too. And I think it's a bad buying experience to come to Etsy and search for something and see the same thing over and over on one page. And I can only hope that, that changes through the search algorithm. Mm-hmm. And, I can't guarantee, but I can make a very educated guess that Etsy is aware of it. I'd be very surprised if they're not. It was definitely something discussed when I worked there. I don't really know what to tell you there, except it bothers me too.
Okay. And it's a known issue.
I know that we had talked about it when I worked there. As far as there was a question earlier in one of the first questions about, I think it was the first question from Kelly. She wrote a little bit before she went into her questions, and she talked about issues that so many of us have that don't seem to be on Etsy's priority list. And when I read that, I thought, well, I understand. I can empathize and connect with that feeling of as a seller, you're thinking, I've been wanting this one thing for so long, and I know it wouldn't take that much time for them to make that change, and what's going on Etsy? But you have to remember that there's a million other sellers that want something different that's really important to them too. And what Etsy does is they make, between the executives and the VPs and the executives, they make this priority list based on what's good for the sellers, the buyers, and the company. And I was in that game too. Even on my team, my community team, I was like, we really need someone to work on the teams page because it is really ugly. And you know what? It was a priority for me because I had to work with it every day. But it wasn't a priority for the company, and I understood that. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to make the best of this. And if we have to make a Google group, then we'll make a Google group. Or if we need to get on the phone and talk to our captains, we'll get on the phone. And that ended up being, a side note, that ended up being the most rewarding part of working there. My favorite project ever was the team fellowship program, because I got to call Etsy sellers and talk to them. And it was just so rewarding, talking about time management, talking about how to be a leader of a group and online engagement. And it was, I learned so much. So, you make the best of it, and you work around it, and you utilize that DIY spirit that brought you to Etsy in the first place.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm excited to get to this section because I've been waiting, and I know this is a longer than usual podcast, but, I hope people have stuck around long enough to listen to this part, because we're going to talk about what Kim is working on now. And I'm really excited about it. I want to give it a whirl, but I want her to explain. So Kim has teamed up with Danielle Exo, who used to be I want to make sure I say it right, the director of seller education. Is that right?
Yes, I think it was before we had a director, but that's what she would have been titled because she was managing that team. Yes. Okay.
So it's a site called Creative Little Beasts, and I'm just going to let Kim talk about it now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's Creative Little Beasts, but the website is creativelittlebeastsingular.com. And you'll know it when you get there because it's real cute, and I love it too. So yeah, Danielle, I never really got to work with her too closely because she left Etsy, but right as I was joining the community team, also known as the seller education team, also known as seller development. We had a lot of names, but we were, the seller facing education team is really the best way to describe it. And she started this, it's like a little consulting company almost, Creative Little Beasts, when she left. And then she started working somewhere else in Brooklyn, and now she lives in LA, and she's relaunched Creative Little Beasts because she took a little hiatus. And I noticed I follow her on all the Twitter and Facebook, and we're friends. So as she comes up, her personal Facebook comes up, and I saw that she was relaunching it. And, you know, both of us like have so much knowledge in our heads about how to run an Etsy shop. And we both love to get down to like the nitty gritty of individual shops. And I reached out to her on Facebook and just said, hey, if you want some help with that, let me know. If you're not in a spot where you need help, that's okay. Just keep me in mind in the future. And, you know, I'm going to sign up for this course. And I did sign up, and I started taking it. And she actually reached out to me and said I could totally use your help. So now we're teaming up, and I'm joining her I am a pack leader now in the Creative Little Beast community.
Is that what it's called, a pack leader?
Yeah, that's what she calls me. I love it. And we have a Facebook page where you can keep up with everything. But we offer 2 kind of streams right now of help. Actually 3. The first one is, in no particular order, is a 24-hour shop makeover. This is where we actually get in there and do the work for you. We, with your permission, log in as you and put our expertise to work. And I just did my first one last week, and I was so excited. It was so fun. And like I got in there, and this guy sold repurposed vintage record consoles and vintage radios, but they're all up to date, and you can use their iPod speakers and iPhone speakers and Bluetooth. And it was just so much fun being able to be the objective third party that came in and was like, this is what you need to do. This is what, try this. You know, I redid all of his marketing copy because I love to do that, A, but B, you know, there's a lot of misspelled words, and he didn't have anybody editing it, and we all work better with an editor. And I think that's really where Danielle and I can come in with that. And then there is, so in your shop makeover, like you can choose if you want 2 or 3 listings redone and learn from those. I went in and did this guy's entire shop, and I gave him a list of keywords. Like that was, I think, was really helpful, where I do the research. We'll look at their competitors. We'll see what the competitors are doing, and then we'll give you, write you a pretty long growth report, a customized growth report for your specific shop with a list of keywords that you can apply to your shop. Which, if you get like the top one, we'll already do that for you. You know, and just like we think about what real work can we get done in this shop over the next 24 hours that'll make a difference. And then we also offer this awesome thing that I'm taking it right now, and the next one launches on June 22nd. It's the 30-day course. And if you've ever taken like the boot camp through Etsy, it's similar to that, but it's actually a wider, it spans a wider area, because we're not only talking about Etsy, we're talking about Google and Shopify and other types of venues that you want to be found on and or sell in. Okay. And I started taking that course, and I guess it was about 3 weeks ago. And I've seen like 4 repeat customers come back to my shop, because for the first time I started a mailing list, but I didn't know how to approach. It seems simple enough to have a mailing list, right? I didn't even know how to approach it. And she wrote all these awesome tutorials, and she gave like step-by-step instructions on how to set up a mailing list efficiently and fast. And I did it, and I totally made some sales off of it. And it was really important, and it helped me kind of focus on repeat buyers rather than trying to get new ones. It's a lot harder to get new buyers. It's a lot easier to reach your repeat customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true.
So yeah, just a quick plug. If you guys want to sign up for the 30-day course, it starts June 22nd. You will get a lesson in your inbox every day, and you get a checkoff list. You get downloaded PDFs to download and worksheets, and you can go at your own pace. I'm actually going a lot slower than 30 days. I'm stretching mine out personally, the one I'm taking, because I have a toddler, and I'm also quilting like crazy. So I'm doing like 5 or 6 lessons at a time on like Saturday night instead of going day by day. So I know that's a concern people have. If they don't stick with it, then they'll fall behind. But there's no really falling behind in this course.
Do people who enroll get to interact with you or Danielle?
Yeah, both of us.
Okay.
There is you sign up for a phone call, and that's one way to interact with us. We're also going to be in the discussion groups for each lesson, and so you'll be asking questions, you'll be talking among your community, and we'll be in there, not necessarily like being moderators, but in addition, like we're also part of the conversation.
Okay. And just so folks know, enrollment is limited to 20 attendees only. So if you go and try to enroll and you can't, it might be because the class is full. Because Kim, you guys are only taking 20 people, right?
That's the case right now.
Okay.
While we're making this recording, Danielle and I have a phone call meeting this week, and we're going to discuss if we're going to open it up to more people, since we're both going to be pack leaders for the next course. Because between the two of us, we could probably handle more, because the lessons are already written. So it's really about like being very present and active with with our little beasts.
And will the beasts have forever? Oh wait, no. So they don't get access to a site. They get emails daily. So as long as they keep the emails, they'll have it. But then there's also a private site. That's where you will interact with them.
Yeah. You'll get a link to it. And we're in the process of switching platforms right now. But you will get all that information, and when you sign up for it, and everything will be provided for you lovingly right in your inbox.
Okay. And then there's a live workshop too, I see.
Yeah, that's something that I'm still talking to Danielle about. We're kind of figuring that out and padding it out and fleshing it out. One thing you can do right now, though, is if you want to test this out and not spend any money right away, you can sign up for a free growth report. And you can, that'll be like, we'll go into your shop. This isn't too detailed, but we won't sign in as you, but we'll go into your shop and we'll give you some really good tips on SEO and photographs and some stuff that's really particular to your shop. Stuff that we do, like this is just what we love to do, and we're both really good at it. And I think that it's, you want somebody who knows what they're doing, who's been a seller, and who understands that each shop is different, and that you want that kind of unique one-on-one hands-on help. If you're ready for that, I think that you can definitely just go ahead and write in and sign up for your shop makeover, or try a free growth report to get a little bit of a taste of what we would do.
Okay. What's the turnaround time right now for the growth reports?
For the free growth reports, it's a couple days.
Okay.
If you sign up, if you pay for a shop makeover, it's 24 hours.
Okay. Wow. That's speedy.
Yeah.
I would imagine if you get like a whole bunch in a day, you guys aren't going to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, allow us some time to maybe extend that if we reach a bunch of people through this podcast. Danielle and I are both over communicators, so you will absolutely know your turnaround time without a doubt right away, especially if we're going over 24 hours. I don't see that happening, but we both will, we take it seriously. And I know how, especially like having a new family and moving and buying a house, I know how precious money can be and how important it is to save it. And I wouldn't have joined Danielle if I thought that this was something that wasn't worth paying for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I'm just like, I'm really impressed with her. And I always really liked the way that she managed her team at Etsy. And, when I left, when she left Etsy, I hadn't even worked with her too much, but she left me this handwritten note. Was this, I mentioned this earlier, were we recording?
No.
Okay. She wrote me this handwritten note in my desk that said something like, Dear Kim, lead with your heart. Etsy needs your spirit to stay strong, or something really, really sweet like that. And I kept that in my drawer on top for 2 years. So every time I opened my desk drawer, I saw it. And then when I left Etsy, the very last day I worked there, I took a picture of it and put it on my Instagram feed. And it was just, I don't know, it was just, nice. She's the type of person who understands that you can't draw all your conclusions from numbers. You have to get in there and talk to people. And you have to be, a lot of it is about emotion, and a lot of it is about connection. And it's not all about, don't look at your sales or your shop stats and judge your whole worth based on those numbers.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Wow. I really want to have a conversation with Danielle. I would love to have her on the podcast. So I'm going to invite her on, and hopefully
I'm gonna,
get to
as
talk.
soon as I get home, I'm going to introduce you guys, because I told her about you a while back and your podcast, and she was like squealing, and she goes, "Lord knows I love a microphone." I know
my kind of gal.
Yeah.
Okay, so you talked about the three services that Creative Little Beasts is offering right now. There's the 24-hour shop makeover, the 30-day course, and then the free custom growth report if you just want to get a taste of what Kim and Danielle can do for you. Is there anything else about Creative Little Beasts that we haven't yet touched on that you want folks to know about?
Other than understanding that you're going to be dealing with two professional women who know that it's not all about numbers, like I was mentioning before, we don't have anybody to report to. We're doing this because we love to do it. And so it's really about, like, we really take a detailed look and we think about you and your business. And, I think a running theme through this whole conversation is kind of finding success by trying new things, and having a third party look at your shop can really open your eyes up to something new. If you want to try the free growth report, you can sign up through our Facebook page, which I believe is just creative. Just search Creative Little Beasts on Facebook, and then you'll find it.
And I'll put links to both the website creativelittle.beast.com, but it's Creative Little Beasts, and the Facebook page. And I see you guys you're also on other social media channels on the website. I can see Twitter, Instagram, all that. So I'll link to those as well, because I know folks have their preferences for how they like to communicate. So you'll be able to reach Kim and Danielle whichever way you choose. But go over to the website. There's lots more information there, more detailed information, especially if you're interested in signing up for the course. It goes over in detail what to expect from the course. And it launches again Monday, June 22nd. So that's about 10 days from when this podcast originally airs. And do you know when the next one will be after the June 22nd? Not yet, right?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. If you like us on Facebook, then you'll get your updates. And Danielle sends email updates as well. And we're thinking about our marketing strategy, and we're constantly Facebook chatting about it. So we're just growing along, as small little businesses do. You just kind of try things and grow, and it's pretty cool. Also, I don't know if we have an Instagram, but if you want to follow me on Instagram, I do Creative Little Beast updates. You will be subject to some quilting photos and maybe a couple of my son, but my Instagram is Kim_Conan, and it's Konen.
Okay.
And I do, we have contests on there about for Creative Little Beasts, where if you do if you follow me and hashtag, and then everybody who reposts the picture, we put your names in a generator, and we're going to be picking people to have major discounts or get a free course.
Oh.
Yeah. And we're also talking about moving to this platform where you can sign up with your team and have 5 to 10 people. And if you sign up as a group, we want to offer discounts. And then also you could be taking this course along with people you already know, which I think can be really rewarding and helpful.
Yeah.
So there's definitely things that we want to do to help people who might not want to spend that much money in one chunk. And so we're going to be offering little contests and things to help out with that.
Okay.
Down the road.
Do we say how much it is? Do we want
to? The online course is $289. the shop makeovers start at $150, and for more detail, I think they go up to $250. I did a $250 one, a major detail, like think about your car being detailed. That's how detailed I got about it, and it was amazing. I kind of like wish that I could get outside of my own head and do one for my own shop. Unfortunately, I'm stuck with myself.
Kim, what's the best way people can reach you if they want to get in touch with you?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think my Etsy shop would be the best way.
Okay.
Yeah, send me a combo on Etsy because that goes directly to my inbox. My Etsy shop is tinyhearts.etsy.com.
Okay. All right. So I will have links to Kim's Etsy shop and also to her Instagram page. So you can follow her on Instagram if you want to find out what's going on with Creative Little Beasts and also be entered into a drawing for discounts on all the good stuff that they offer. And then if you just want to talk to Kim directly, Tiny Hearts is her Etsy shop. The link will be in the show notes. And I think that's it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. This was so fun.
Kim, thank you so much. We lost Angie along the way. She had to run. She had something to do for her kids' school. So she left. But Kim, thank you so much for being my guest, for taking the time out to answer all these questions, and then also to tell us about Creative Little Beasts and the new service that you and Danielle are offering. I think it will be valuable. I'm going to go check it out some more.
Thank you. Well, speaking of valuable, thank you for having this podcast and for having the Facebook group. It's been really great to be a part of it, and I can't wait to have a long future as a Etsy Conversation group member.
Thanks, Kim. And you will be back on the podcast
I would love to.
Yeah, we want to talk about your shop and your new product line and find out how all that's going.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to it, and I'm a dedicated listener, and I wrote down all these new ones I want to hear about from people who ask questions. Thank you for all of you who submitted questions. It was really fun and challenging to think about it and to come up with the answers that are honest, true, and will satisfy you. And I hope I did a good job.
You did, and I thank you, and I thank everyone who participated and sent in questions. I don't think this particular episode would be possible if you didn't. So I really appreciate you participating. And if you're listening to the podcast and you have a question that we didn't ask, and if you want another episode like this where we sit down and just answer questions, please let me know. You can reach me on Facebook. The Facebook page is Etsy Conversations Podcast. You can go to convome.com and just go to the contact page and send me a message and let me know that whether or not you like the question and answers and if you want another episode. And if you do, go ahead and ask me your questions. I'll just start collating all the questions I get, and then I will wrangle Kim again and Angie, and then we'll do this again sometime in the future. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast, and I will see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.